All right, guys. Sorry about that little technical issue. My whole system just shut down right then and there. I don't know why. But we are back now. Thank you for hanging with us and holding on through that little technical issue. But yeah, we back. We out here. It's time for another episode of The World in the Meantime. Where, if you don't know, this is just where we go over everything that happened in the previous episode. Kind of touch some key points, talk about some things that maybe we didn't get to, and then let you know what we've got coming up next. So I'm gonna pass over to Charles, and we're gonna kick this thing off.
All right. So yesterday kicked off this week's conversation where we talked about and we'll be talking about for the remainder of this week, black hair, right? Appropriation versus appreciation. What's the difference in the two? Um, some of the pride that many black people feel, because not all black people feel it. What it takes to get to that place of having pride in your hair, the texture of it, the ways that it forms, what it looks like. Um, that's where we're at yesterday. That's where we're gonna be all week. And yesterday's conversation was a really good one, man. Like I was telling Dom after the broadcast yesterday that went exactly how it went in my mind, right? So like when we decided that this is the conversation we're going to have, that's how I wanted it to go. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some things that are different, but I was like, okay, cool. That's what happened in my mind, and it was oddly kind of not what I was anticipating. One of the things that threw me off, and it was raised a lot in the comments, was everybody up there had locks, and so we were mostly speaking from the vantage point of having locks, which is something that we're going to do our best in switching up this week. Get some people up here that don't have locks, that because there's more hairstyles than just locks. But man, it was a dope conversation. Just hearing, I loved listening at Petrino talking about how he's always had this pride in his hair. And like you said, Don, I was like, man, I wish
Yeah,
like
for
that
real.
wasn't the case here. Like as a matter of fact, one thing that I didn't get into yesterday, and this is how crazy hair is. So, and it's I'm so glad that I get to do this. Like, so my line, right? Like probably like most of my life, I think it didn't feel until I was 21. My line used to like go and then come back and then like loop down and then go. And that made me like super insecure, everything. Like, dog, they nicknamed me Bullet Head growing up.
Oh
And
man.
it made sense because of like the joint. Like it, yeah, I was like, ah. And I never realized until like I don't even know what happened. It just came. You see that money came in, right? And as soon as it came in, I was like, man, okay. It allowed. That's about when I started actually caring about my hair and taking pride in it, because I was like, okay, now I can for real do this thing. And so just something that little, it was interesting to me. But hearing him talking about having pride in his hair his whole life, and man, I was like, man, I wish, but that's why we get to have these conversations. That's why I love having them, is because other people have different experiences than I do. And it's amazing how much we learn from other people about their experiences and perspectives, but also about ourselves, right? Like hearing him talk about the pride that he has always had in his hair, I guess unlocked for me like this new understanding of the levels that I can take my pride to, right? And then it also kind of pointed out to me an area or some areas where I can improve as far as my self-worth and self-esteem and things like that go. And we're only talking about hair, right? Like I think that's powerful.
Yeah. And for me, like just hearing that someone has that kind of pride just from the jump, I feel like it puts it in me that it's okay. I gotta instill that in the next generation. Now that I
Yeah.
hear that someone actually has that, someone actually lived that, because my understanding has pretty much always been that none of us like our hair until we get to a certain point where we learn to love it. Like I've always thought it was a learning process for all of us. But to hear someone be like, "Nah, from the jump, this is me. I loved it. I was always feeling it." I'm like, okay, so if
Always.
that can happen, like, what do I got to do to make sure that happens with my kids? Who can I talk to try and instill that in their lives? It just along the lines of what you were saying about hear like other perspectives and like that. That I feel like is so beneficial, especially there, because now I know that this is actually a thing. I didn't know that existed before.
Yeah, I do. So what what's something or your favorite thing, the best thing that you took away from our conversation yesterday, sir?
Um, I really liked hearing. Yes, it's different from what the idea of appropriate. Um, how we talked about that, how he differed slightly in some areas, but still kind of almost felt the same way about it. And what I liked about it was that as much as we hear this day and age that everything is appropriation, um, it kind of reminds me of I was talking to Chris a while ago, marking everyone as a terrorist with the whole January 6th thing, how it
Yeah.
almost diminishes the word and it can kind of lessen the blow. I feel like that's kind of the same thing as far as appropriation goes. You label everything, kind of lessens the. And I just really enjoyed having that conversation of where no, everything isn't bad, not malicious. Everything kind of kill and take, and we kind of have to look at this situation. Yeah, I think if I took anything of the conversation,
That's I love that, because as you were talking about the appropriation portion of the conversation, I was thinking about appropriation versus appreciation again, and the way that it registered for you, it registered for me completely different. Whereas I didn't even think about the aspect of it being thrown around so much that it loses its weight to the point where like sometimes I just thought about like it's thrown around so much that it loses its weight to the point that when people are accused or confronted about appropriation, they might even take it as a compliment, because it's lost the true meaning of it is lost in the oversaturation of it by our society. I think that's yeah, man, that's crazy. It's a very fine line between appropriation and appreciation, and yeah, that's wow, man, that's good. Dom out here preaching in the meantime. I got the music, I got the show, and I'm preaching. What's good? Hey, you got it. So what we got coming up, man?
um, so we're gonna keep doing what we've been doing as far as like keeping conversations going for the
Yeah,
week. So we want to talk about more hair. Um, this week as much as we can. And actually, some viewers brought up some good questions. Like Charles mentioned before, the episode really only featured locks, which wasn't by design. It's just this is how it happened. But there are so many hairstyles just in Black culture, um, and a lot of we talked about it as far as like Black people having issues with Black people wearing certain hairstyles. Even as much as you straighten your hair, you want to be white type of thing. But like we said, you do whatever you want to with your hair. So one thing that I know we want to try to do this week is try to get perspective from Black people on Black hair, regardless of what their hairstyle actually is. Just so that we can get more of a solid understanding of this is my hair. I like my hair like this. You shouldn't have a problem with what I'm doing. Okay?
yeah.
So that's one thing. We also had another question come in, which I think was really good, and we can kind of touch on a little bit tonight. But one of our viewers asked if we were going to talk anything about um, biracial children or Black children who've been adopted by white parents. Which that's a whole conversation in and of itself, I think. But
It is.
but yeah, I would definitely want to explore that some because the way I feel about it, it's weird. It's kind of a touchy thing that probably shouldn't be a touchy thing, but it is. The idea of white people adopting Black children. The way I look at it is always, that kid now has a home that they did not have
Yeah.
before. Um, and in all honesty, I would rather someone grow up and be a coon than grow up without a home. Um, I feel like I can work with that somehow, some way. But at least that person had a family. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But on the flip side of that, I do feel like you have a duty and responsibility to not only understand that child's culture for yourself, but also make sure that they're immersed in that culture as well. And that does include hair. And I've known some white people with black kids that go out of their way to let me make sure I find a black hairstylist, black barber. Let me make sure I'm watching the whole time they're doing things so I can go and do it at home. Like that, like that.
Don't take your black child to great clips.
You just, please,
Like,
please, no. So yeah, just my opinion. Yeah, you absolutely have to immerse yourself and your child in that culture. Um, and hair is part of that culture. So yeah, like I said, you got a responsibility to do it because
Yeah.
your kid's hair going to break, and it's you got to do it. You just got to do it.
And it's so funny because, like you said, it is a whole other conversation. Because as you're talking about immersing them in that culture, you also got to factor in. It's like, okay, when was this child adopted, right? Because
Yeah.
if this child was adopted at 12, 13, 14, maybe it's too late. I mean, maybe not. But if this child is younger and then they're raised in nothing but, this white suburban or whatever culture, then they're not even thinking nothing about black culture. And I don't know, is that like, how's that gonna impact or affect them growing up? So it's really interesting. I mean, me personally, I think that the way that I function and operate, if I see a black person who, um I'm not even gonna go because I can't figure out a good way to word it that it doesn't sound crazy. So y'all ain't about to Kanye me. Like, no. But yeah, I mean, yeah, So it's interesting, man. But again, that's a whole other conversation. But to just lightly touch on it, yeah, I agree that culture matters, and I think that that's just in general, right? Culture matters, and just like I said yesterday, and I'll scream this until I find new information that convinces me otherwise or die. Um, I think that the more we exchange and accept and understand other cultures, the less we have to worry about appropriation. And it's just, we move more into the realm of total appreciation. Maybe not everybody is appreciating it, but the people that we're seeing put on these in these black hairstyles and things like that, it's like, okay, they're not trying to just mock black people or trying to steal it. They're just like, yo, this is cool. So yeah, I think that culture matters, and every people group and subgroup and subgroup have their own cultures. And I think that it's just naive, maybe, to be white and then have a black child and then not immerse them in that culture.
Mm.
And at the very least, find a friend that you trust who is in that culture to teach them if you don't want to learn for yourself. But yeah, again, it's a whole other conversation. What was the other point that you brought up? The from the
Um,
comments, was it different hairstyles?
yeah, that was the only other one. Making sure that we can get some perspective from people with other hairstyles that are black, that don't have to be locks or afro or all natural or anything like
Yeah,
that.
I was talking to my mom earlier, and one of the things that she said, she's like, "Yo, a lot of people," and she's talking about black people. A lot of people are so happy and proud to be black, and then they go buy weave, and it's like, hmm, I was like, I never thought about that. And then after she said that, it made me think about, you know, it's not so much a good or a bad thing as much as the stigma attached with women shaving their head. Like, for the longest time, I used to think that that meant you were gay. It's
Uh,
like the only gay women shave their heads,
yeah.
and so, it was weird for me not knowing, but that's a part of not knowing and then having to learn that process all for myself. So we definitely plan on getting some different hairstyles. I actually plan on having my sister down for a conversation. Not sure if I'm going to get anybody else, but she definitely doesn't have locks. So that'll that'll be refreshing for anybody who's like, I don't have locks. I'm tired of hearing about you lock people. But yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited about that.
besides that, I think that's mostly what we got for y'all. Just keeping y'all updated as far as what is next. Like I said, this week is all about
Oof.
black hair. Next week, we're gonna get a little spicier and talk about Black History Month as a whole and whether or not we need Black History Month, whether we should
Mm,
have it, whether we should get rid of it. So that's definitely going to be an interesting conversation. Really looking forward to that one. And if there's one that you join for Black History Month, I would recommend that being the one that you join.
yeah,
This is going to be a good one.
yeah. That's we were talking a little bit about it, and I decided that I wasn't even going to go too deep in my conversation with Dom. I'm gonna just save it
Yeah.
for the conversation. But I think it's a scam. And
Kicking over.
just
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it at that. No, I don't even know how I said that because it just makes me want to speak more.
I know,
Black
right?
history. We're gonna talk about that next week. Did you tell me we're talking about the week after?
No, we didn't go that far. No, because we're
Okay.
still.
I guess they're gonna have to tune
Yeah.
in next week to find
Yeah.
out what comes to follow me.
All right, keep them coming back.
Yeah, you know. Well,
So yeah, that's what we got
that
for you.
is
This
all
week
I
is
got.
black hair. Next week we're talking about Black History Month. Again, that's gonna be an all week kind of thing too. So
The shortest
make-
month in the calendar year, just coincidentally.
so yeah, make sure you're there for that. Check us out. Stay tuned. Charles, you got anything else?
No, sir. No, sir. I do not.
That's it. All right. Well, I'm gonna close this out in a little prayer real quick, and we're gonna keep it pushing. Thank you, God, for this time, for this platform, the ability to have these conversations. Thank you that everything's been running smooth, and we ask that you continue to be able to push this thing forward, so we can have more conversations and impact more lives. Amen.
Amen.
Right. All right. Like I said, stay tuned. We've got more coming at you soon here. But with that, guys, take it easy, enjoy the night, and see you when we see you.